We're on a mission to explore South Africa.
From the wildflowers of the Namaqualand,
To the majestic mountains of the
from
Cederberg.
the pristine beaches of the West Coast,
To the lush forests of the Garden Route.
let's discover every hidden gem
Every secret haven.
and every local hangout.
As we take you across the world in a country.
These are the Travallure guides of South Africa.
We embarked on this epic 64-day road trip across South Africa to reinvigorate our travel industry after the devastation of the national lockdown.
Sony Alpha SA was extremely keen to get involved and lent us the Sony A7 III for the duration of this journey so that we could capture the breathtaking beauty we encountered and share it with you.
The accommodation options we are including in this guide were all researched and approached by us.
Although we received sponsored stays, as always, all routes, advice, views and reviews are entirely our own.
Let's get this guide going. There is so much that we want to show you. There is just so much to see.
So let's continue our journey with our second DT En Route SA travel guide, the mighty Cederberg Wilderness.
Garnering its name from the endangered and endemic Clan William cedar tree, the Cederberg Wilderness Area lies just over 200 kilometers north of Cape Town and is famous for outdoor adventure.
With over 300 kilometers of rugged hiking trails, some of the most spectacular bouldering and rock climbing hotspots in the country, and a unique, breathtaking rocky landscape, even if you're not the outdoor adventure type, this is the exact place that might change that. If you do love the open air already, then this is a little place we like to call paradise.
Step 1. Take the Waterfall Pass.
Start your morning with a hearty breakfast at Lindisdorp, and if you're not quite sure how we got here, there's an entire Namaqualand flower route guide that you should check out right here. If you're with us from the previous guide already, or are just here to enjoy the Cederberg, let's keep going.
You could head towards the Cederberg on the N7, but that is far less fun than the Waterfall Pass. Leaving Lindisdorp, we'd suggest avoiding Voortrekker Street if you're in a sedan and taking the R27 instead. This also gives you an added stop 26 minutes and 37.9 kilometers into your trip. We left just before 7 in the morning.
We happened upon this memorial and naturally got out to investigate. Built to commemorate the end of the Anglo-Boer War, erected in 1968 and seemingly in the middle of nowhere, the last laying down of arms actually took place right here along the Oorlogskloof River, Oorlog meaning war in Afrikaans. When you're ready to move on, make a quick
U-turn and head down the R364. The Waterkloof Pass is said to have been named after the many botterbome or butter trees that flourished in the area.
What we can tell you for sure, however, is that it's awesome. We just cruised along the sand road, eyes glued to our surrounds and hearts content. In fact, we even felt inspired to stop for a couple of minutes and enjoy the croissants we had purchased earlier, standing on the side of the road.
An hour and 10 minutes later, you should have covered your 80.9 kilometers on dirt roads and will be greeted by a nice tar road. Moments later, you will see a sign pointing to Step 2, the Engelsman Graf. You can park on the right-hand side of the road and cross over to see the grave on the left.
The Englishman's grave is a lonely grave next to an empty road where Lieutenant Graham Vinicombe Winchester Close lies, a British soldier who was killed by Boer commandos in 1901 during the Anglo-Boer War. Lieutenant Close's grieving mother would make a 5-week journey by sea to the Cape and then travel on until reaching this very spot on the anniversary of her son's death every year. She would stand here and weep, a simple yet poignant stop.
5 minutes and 5.8 kilometers further down this road comes Step 3, the Sevilla Rock Art Trail. You'll need to head to Traveller's Rest, park outside the restaurant and head into the farm stall. For 50 Rand each, you're given a permit and a pamphlet and directed to the start of the trail.
The Sevilla Rock Art Trail is a 5-kilometer trail that displays 9 beautifully kept rock art sites left behind by the Sand People, who previously inhabited the Cederberg for thousands of years. It was really fun to walk around and find all of the sites. Plus, the flower season being in full swing was a total bonus. The hiking was easy and we'd suggest 2.5 hours for your round trip.
Once you're back at the restaurant, you can pop in for a quick snack or something to drink, and then it's off 17.1 kilometers and 14 minutes along the Pakhuis Pass to our second grave of the day, the grave of
C. Louis Leipoldt, Christian Frederick Louis Leipoldt was a very popular South African poet, dramatist, medical doctor, reporter, and food expert. Interestingly enough, his father was the preacher of the old NG Kerk in Clan William, and his grandfather was one of the missionaries that founded the town of Wuppertal in the Cederberg. Leipoldt himself had a great love for the Huntum area, and a lot of his poetry was about his love thereof, so it is only right that his ashes were laid to rest here, in the rugged Pakhays Pass.
Fear not, food time is nigh. Enjoy the rest of this scenic drive for a further 14 minutes and 16.3 kilometers into Clan William to Step 5, Veldskoendraai Farmers Market and Restaurant. Be sure to search Rooibos Tea House in Google Maps to be taken to the right place. It's literally straight along the main road until you turn right into the parking lot.
Lunch was great, and I'd highly recommend the milkshakes. Do note that it's not fast food or food fast, so place your order and then wander around the farm stall and peruse their selection of Rooibos products until your lunch has arrived.
We spent 200 Rand on our lunch before heading on our way to Step 6, Ramskop Wildflower Garden. 2.6 kilometers and 6 minutes into town is the entrance to the Ramskop Wildflower Garden, which also just happens to possibly be the most fickle wildflower display we encountered.
The reviews of this place are so varying, some saying it's not worth a visit at all, and others saying the flowers blooming here are magnificent. Unfortunately, our visit was not part of the latter group, and in fact we never actually went in. We spoke to the guard at the entrance who warned us that it's not really worth the 23 Rand entrance fee. He allowed us to drive around the gated section for a little bit to see for ourselves and then visit the dam, and 12 minutes later we were on our way.
Now, our plan was to visit the Clan William Dam wall, and we tried very hard to do that, to no avail. Everybody we asked said you cannot, every road we took was closed or restricted, and the best you can do is stop at a bench outside the fence just after the on-ramp to the N7 towards Piketberg. Not only is that the only place, but we also missed the stop. Anyway, all 6 steps have been in one day so far, so I bet you have never been more ready to travel your last 7.5 kilometers and 9 minutes of the day to
Cederberg Ridge Wilderness Lodge, where you can admire the spectacular mountain view from the beautiful pool. You can grab a cocktail, sit by the fire in the lounge, or my personal favorite, you can come back and get in your own luxurious, huge bathtub.
Owners Anton and Kate had a vision and a dream to capture and share the beauty of the Cederberg Mountains with others, to allow others to fall in love with this breathtaking landscape just as they did, and so Cederberg Ridge was born.
This luxury lodge places you right into the terrain, providing as little separation from you and the outside as possible, and yet ensuring you are never in less than ultimate comfort. We were welcomed like long-lost family and sat chatting in the lounge for quite a while before we even knew it. I couldn't allow myself to be distracted any longer. Dinner time was nearing, and there was something extremely important I had to do. This. Bliss. If I could live in this bathtub, I would. Warm water, scented bath salts, soft bubbles, the hushed chirping of birds outside, and the sun setting over the Cederberg Mountains. You will love it.
Once you've contemplated the day and are ready to wind down the evening, head on over to the lounge to get the evening's affairs underway.
It all begins with candles, soft music and drinks. Muffled chatter fills the lounge, travel tales are exchanged, and friends are made.
The 3-course meal is what dreams are made of, and you'll find yourself thinking back to this very dinner for years to come. Even the walk back to your suite is relaxing, under the watch of a million stars. The perfect end to a wonderful day.
And do you know how we start a new wonderful day?
With a divine breakfast at Cederberg Ridge. I cannot recommend the French toast enough.
When staying at Cederberg Ridge, we'd highly recommend the full board package. With so much on offer and so many activities to choose from, it's freeing and exciting to choose what you really want to do.
Either way, you have access to a minimum of 2 activities per day that rotate and are sometimes seasonally based. But right now, as you watch this, you can easily check on their app. Simply download Vamoose, register and enter the user ID Cederberg when prompted, and you'll have access to their activities, weather, history, menus, wine lists, spa treatments and anything else you could be interested in. And of course, you can book from there too.
Our activity of the day was supposed to be the Sevilla Rock Art Trail, but since we had already done that, David, our extremely knowledgeable and friendly guide, was more than happy to switch things around and take us to Step 7 instead, the Stadsaal Caves.
It's quite a long 70.1 kilometer and 1.5 hour drive from Cederberg Ridge to the Stadsaal Caves, but with David stopping off to show us various sites, farms, and just share general history of the area, even the drive itself was fun. Due to previous graffiti damage, Cape Nature is trying their best to protect these caves, so you'll have to purchase a permit to get in to see them, which you can do at the Algeria Forest Station for 50 Rand each. Of course, this is not an issue if you headed there on a guided tour. To actually enter the Stadsaal Caves area, you'll need to enter the code that you receive with your permit into the combination lock on the gate.
Stadsaal Caves or City Hall Caves are huge rock formations that have eroded over time and created interleading caves and passageways that provided shelter to humans from various walks of life. First, it was home to the sand hunter-gatherers who lived in the Cederberg area for over 500,000 years. They left behind fascinating rock art telling stories of religion, spirituality, living situations, family, and so on. Many years later, it became a rumored meeting ground for the National Party in 1948, which is also where it got its name City Hall. It houses some really old graffiti left behind by the people in the party itself, as well as some other names that date back to the 1880s, like C. Louis Leipoldt, as well as the names of the old owners of the farm and their friends.
The elephant rock art is within the same gated area as the Stadsaal Caves. As you're heading back towards the gate, take the short offshoot to the left. You can't miss it.
This rock art depicts 3 different groups of people and a herd of elephants. The most interesting part is that one of the elephants at the back of the herd is facing the opposite direction to the rest. There is no definite consensus yet of why this may be or what it could mean. Maybe a lesson on life and death. What do you think?
Not something we planned, but something we are grateful the Cederberg Ridge team planned for us, was a picnic as step 8. We headed 12 minutes and 7.9 kilometers back along the same road to Cederberg Wines.
Courtesy of Cederberg Ridge, this is where we had a picnic, and after that we made our way home.
No.
No, I kid. Of course we headed inside for some wine tasting.
Wine tasting costs around 120 Rand per person, which again is not something to concern yourself with if traveling with a guide. The Cederberg private cellar forms part of the highest lying vineyards above sea level in the Western Cape and started their winemaking journey with planting their first vines in 1973.
Cederberg Wines is now geared towards the wine connoisseurs out there and gives you the option to select the wine you'd like to taste, as opposed to the more common selections various sellers and vendors put together for you.
From there, we head the final 1 hour and 20 minutes and 62.9 kilometers back to Cederberg Ridge for
Step 9. Enjoy Cederberg Ridge. If you really want to enjoy this luxury lodge to the fullest, you need 3 full days. But if all you've got is this one final afternoon, let's make it count.
Whatever your disposition, you'll find something you'd like to do. Whether it's read a book in the library, grab a drink at the bar, go on a short hiking trail, take the mountain bikes out for a cycle, go for a swim with an epic view, sit on the deck with a cup of coffee, play on the front lawn, which was my choice.
Or take a bath again. How could you not have mentioned that first?
As you can see, you won't be short of choices, and if you think it can't get any better, remember you've got another 3-course dinner around the corner.
And if that's not exciting enough, there's also another breakfast coming your way.
Remember, French toast.
And after breakfast, it's time to hit the road again.
Your next stop is an imperative one. 5 minutes and 5.6 kilometers away from Cederberg Ridge is the Shell petrol station. Be sure to fill up now, it'll be a while until you do again. It cost us 186 Rand to top up the tank, and we were ready for our next 2-minute and 250 meter journey to Step 10, House of Rooibos. Well, it wasn't that easy for us the first time around. We initially headed to the Rooibos Limited factory and discovered that the presentations and tastings no longer happen there. So we found their updated location and have now learned that they've moved to a bigger and even better nearby location. So that's all up to you to discover.
It was also nice to see the home of the world's largest global supplier of Rooibos, albeit from the outside. Once you do step inside House of Rooibos, you're welcomed by friendly staff and guided to a separate room to watch a 9-minute video presentation. And once you're savvy on all things Rooibos, you can do hot tea or iced tea tastings for 30 Rand per person. Browse their range of Rooibos products, or sit at a table outside and order some Rooibos treats to have right there and then. We recommend the Rooibos High Tea.
Now it's time to make a decision. We opted to skip the Oudtshoorn Museum in Clanwilliam in lieu of getting to our next stop earlier. It's a mere 3 minutes and 800 meters away and asks only for a donation as an entrance fee.
We adore museums, so it was a really tough call. We'd encourage you to make the stop. We've heard nothing but good things. Plus, history from C. Louis Leipoldt, the Clan William Rooibos trade, and the misleading date above the museum all resides within those walls. A visit there would help make sense of the town's timeline and shed light onto the lives of the pioneers of Clan William.
Before continuing along your journey, pull over at Spa and curate yourself a nice assortment of picnic treats. Oh, yes, and food for the next 2 days if you don't have already. Spa is 2 minutes up the road. From there, it's 40 minutes and 30.4 kilometers to step 11, Algeria.
Not the country, but the forest station. Algeria was, however, named after the country Algeria. Count Durain found the cedar trees and namesake Cederberg Mountains to be reminiscent of the Atlas mountain range that runs through the country. Algeria is the Cape Nature headquarters for the Cederberg Wilderness Area, and amongst being the place to get most of your permits, also offers stunning campsites and cottages, 2 day hikes, mountain biking trails, and a natural river pool for Algeria guests.
This is also where your next adventure begins. Head into the permit office and flash your wildcard or purchase a permit for the Algeria waterfall hike for 85 Rand each. It'll take you 45 minutes to an hour and a half to reach the waterfall,
which also happens to be your idyllic picnic spot. Commonly called the Algeria Waterfall, the Middleberg Waterfall is an easy enough hike to do casually or with the family, but challenging enough to call it a hike, so take water. As our road trip began right after the initial countrywide lockdown had lifted, this trail had not yet reopened, so instead we stood in the parking lot and Byron pointed out the trail to me and reminisced hiking it a few years prior.
As fun as that was, hiking it is better, so please enjoy it. Once you're back at Algeria and ready to move on, which should be around 4 hours later, take a 17.7 kilometer, 24 minute drive to
Driehoek Guest Farm, where you can just laze by the Driehoek River, go for some short or long hikes, or if it's a little bit chilly outside, cuddle up by a toasty fire inside your cabin.
This farm has been in the family for 6 generations since the 1800s. Although it was almost lost, Davy and Lizette have come to the rescue and are making some great changes, but also aspiring to make no changes at all.
The simple nature-first philosophy they have adopted with their farm have made these cabins the highest form of developed accommodation they currently or ever plan to have. Although you can access the Wi-Fi, they avoid it at all costs. Being at Driehoek is all about being in the Cederberg. This farm was once a fruit and livestock farm, but gravel roads made access rather difficult, so they decided to refine and turn to wine. Planting their first vines in 2006 and producing their first bottle in 2009, Driehoek has gone on to win multiple international awards and produces truly world-class wines.
Not taking their word for it, we purchased an award-winning Sauvignon Blanc for 100 Rand, some wood for 35 Rand, and headed back to the river cottage to discover what the hype was about all by ourselves.
We tell you to wake up early the next morning for some coffee alongside the river, but I think that's just something you'll know to do already. It kind of calls you. You might also want to wake up a little earlier than usual if you're here in summer, so you can get to step 12 sooner rather than later, and it's something we know you have been waiting for.
Hiking the Cederberg. Driehoek makes the perfect base for some of Cederberg's most famous trails. I'm getting so excited just telling you about them. You can get to the most famous Cederberg attraction, the Wolfberg Arch, via the less commonly used Gabriel's Pass from right here. But of course you could drive out and start at the Wolfberg Cracks if you'd prefer that too.
You can make your way up to Tafelberg to see the UFO rock formation or go rock climbing, perhaps even spend a night in the Veldskoendraai cave on your way there.
A short drive gets you to the start of the trail to the famous Maltese Cross and even the mighty Sneuberg. Watching the shadow of the mountain extend across the land as the sun sets over the Cederberg is one of the most magical experiences you can have.
Not only that, but the endemic and extremely beautiful snow protea can be found here, as well as on Tafelberg. This is the only place in the entire world where they grow.
If this is just exciting you and overwhelming you and you want to do them all and you don't know how, first of all, I get you. It's exciting. Secondly, you can. Most of these hikes can be done in a single day, ranging from 3 to 8 hours, but you can also organize overnight and multi-day hiking permits from the Cape Nature Contact Center or the Algeria office.
Excluding Pakhuisberg and Rocklands, you can get all the single-day permits you need right here at Driehoek too. How convenient!
As much fun as being in the mountains is, and it really is, please make sure to read the permits and hiking guidelines before heading out there. Weather in the mountains can be unpredictable, rocky terrain isn't always the most stable to navigate, signal is hard to find if at all, and it's also important to be aware of the Cederberg's endemic and endangered fauna and flora so we can protect it the best we can.
And in case you cannot tell, Byron loves this place.
I do.
Also, if you're hiking in summer, start early. It gets really hot in the Cederberg. And
an early start also allows you time for a shady siesta or extended lunch by a refreshing mountain pool, which is literally the best.
Step 13 is to enjoy Driehoek. Whether you have spent a couple of days out hiking or are merely looking to unwind back at the camp, there are still a couple of things you can do.
There are 2 natural swimming spots, farm animals to feed, mountain biking trails that do require your own bike, pony rides, and a few short hikes to some great points around the farm.
We first stopped off at the Family Museum. It is a simple barn that has been used to collect and curate a collection of historical farming equipment, tools, houseware, photographs, and even a very cool farmhouse model. It is a short stop, but if you're fans of history like us, it's a stop you'll want to make.
From there, you're welcome and even encouraged to walk around the farm and explore. We would have headed straight for the natural pools if the weather was right for it, but enjoyed our meander about nonetheless. Next, you can head out for a short hike to see some rock art, visit an old landmark, find the old leopard stone trap, relax at the bird hut, locate the waterfall, or all of the above perhaps.
Our 1 kilometer waterfall loop took us just over an hour, but we could definitely have stayed out longer if it wasn't for the allure of a riverside sunset calling our names. Walking back towards the river cottage, we spotted a stunning sight. Davy and Lizette had left a beautiful bottle of Driehoek Shiraz for us on our table, and it was delicious. Of course, we enjoyed some Shiraz by the river for sunset and moved nearer to the fireplace as our winter evening drew on.
There is one other outing that we'd highly recommend, which we'd love to have done ourselves had our timing worked out a little better, and that's a visit to the Cederberg Astronomical Observatory. They host public viewing evenings on Saturdays, when the moon is not interfering with their telescopes, where you can learn a lot and definitely see a lot under the clear Cederberg skies. Tickets cost R100 per person, and donations to improve their facilities are very welcome. You can view their roster and get in touch with them from right here at Driehoek or on their website.
Your next morning begins with bidding farewell to Driehoek and setting off for Step 14, Lot's Wife.
22 minutes and 17.6 kilometers down the road, you'll come across a small parking spot on your right. Be sure to use the link in our description for the location or simply be on the lookout. You can't miss it.
Lot's Wife is a rock formation that strikingly resembles a praying woman and was named after the famous Bible story. You know the one where Lot's wife was turned to a pillar of salt while fleeing the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah when she looked back?
Although Lot's Wife can be seen right at the start of the trail, the sub 4 kilometer hiking trail should definitely be explored further, as it boasts some of the most unique and impressive rock formations that the Cederberg is famous for. The entire trail is easy hiking and should take you around an hour.
Step 15 is another one that we sadly veered away from due to our frigid weather, but we're hopeful that you'll be enjoying sunny weather and your own trip out to Maalgat.
Start off by heading 3 minutes down the road to the familiar Cederberg Wines, which also happens to be the home of the Suntrif reception. Here you can purchase your permit for Maalgat at R85 per adult and R55 per child under 13. If you know when you're heading to Maalgat ahead of time, you could also get your permit during your visit to Cederberg Wines at Step 8. Else, there's the option to arrange your permit 1 day prior over the phone.
Unfortunately, permits to Maalgat are not granted to day visitors during school holidays or long weekends.
Once you have your permit in hand, you can head a further 3 kilometers to the actual Suntrif holiday resort and start of the Maalgat hike. It should take you around 30 minutes to get to this famous swimming hole.
Famous and hot. There is no shade in the area, so be sure to garb yourself with your sun protection and grab some water. Once you're there, you can spend as long as you'd like splashing about or try out the main attraction 8 and 11 meter cliff jumps.
Setting aside around 3 hours for your entire experience should be sufficient, and along your walk back, you'll probably be starting to get very excited for Step 16, Cederberg Park, Kromrivier. Just over 15 minutes from where you are now is your riverside lunch stop.
Please note that the drive there was not my favorite undertaking, and I'd suggest giving it a miss entirely if you find yourself in a sedan and in the rain. We did make it, but it was a touch scary.
We were quite excited about going for a tasting at their brewery, New Brew, but discovered upon arrival that tastings have to be pre-arranged.
You should also phone ahead if you'd like to order fresh farm bread, you're coming for dinner, you have special dietary requirements, or you'd like to book for a large group.
However, their eatery is famous for their gourmet burgers, so if you're keen for a decent meal along those lines, you should be just fine. Budget around 200 Rand per person.
There's also the option to go for an easy 2-hour hike amongst some more of the marvelous Cederberg rock formations on the Trekkie Scroll hike from right here. It's free for wildcard holders and 50 Rand each for day visitors.
Now, just when you thought a day out in the Cederberg couldn't get any better, get ready for a night out. Jump back in your car and head just under 90 kilometers in just under 2 hours to Kagga Kamma Nature Reserve. Along your way, you will travel some of the most beautiful stretches of the southern Cederberg Wilderness Area, along the Kromrivier and Blinkberg passes. The Blinkberg Pass in particular is just spectacular. There are a few places to pull over and take in the view, and there's even a waterfall trail off of the main stop to the left, but we were quite content to simply cruise along with the windows down.
Heading towards Kagga Kamma, you'll first cross the Rooibos. We suggest getting out and walking along the bridge because, well, it's fun. The Cederberg Pass is also a stunner, with diverse rock formations to either side and an increasingly spectacular view as you edge up the steep road, which is easily manageable in a regular sedan.
Your excitement levels should officially be rising as you reach the Kagga Kamma gate. Get prepared to experience
something completely different at Kagga Kamma Nature Reserve, where you can spend a night out in the open admiring the stars in one of their open-air suites, or you can experience one of their caves tucked away in the mountains, or maybe just one of their many activities, like quad biking.
Before quad biking, be sure to check into your half man-made, half real rock cave suite, pack yourself a small overnight bag, and then hop onto a quad bike and drive off to step 17, the Sky Suite.
The open-air suites, of which they have two, the Star and Sky Suites, are the primary reason we set our sights on Kagga Kamma. To be isolated, to hear the calls of nature, to watch as the sun sets over the valley. Its orange and pink light bouncing off of the mountains in the distance, dazzling hues surrounding you. The steam rising off of your wood-fired hot tub, the flames from the boma crackling and competing with the orange of the sky, the champagne ready to pop, and mouth-watering treats waiting to be tried, all before you settle down, cuddled up in luxury comforts while you have a billion stars to gaze upon and a million sounds to take in. The life that distracts us completely removed, the sound of cars replaced by the wonders and beauty of the universe. Who wouldn't want to experience this?
Being in the elements is just that. You cannot control the weather, which is why staying in an open-air suite is an upgrade and not a singly booked night. You need to have another reserved room first. However, if it's between September and April and the weather is good, then the suite is all yours.
We were very keen to enjoy a 3-course meal or even the traditional braai, but considering it was rather cold, yes, that is snow on the mountains, we weren't able to spend our night under the stars.
That did not stop us from asking for a couple's picnic at the very least, which at Kagga Kamma is a feast of indulgence in itself. We had to experience the Sky Suite. It's also probably worth mentioning that this is the perfect place to do a little something like this.
Perfect.
Our mushy story aside, let's say you're not spending a night in the open-air suite. What's next?
Step 18. Private dining under the stars.
You can still have your romantic moment in the Cederberg with a bottle of bubbly, a 3-course meal, first-class service, a private fire, and all the time in the world.
We know you have lots of time because as an excited and newly engaged couple, we spent hours around the fire laughing, giggling, chatting, and just being. By the time we realized how much time had passed, we emerged from our private dining cocoon to a quiet Kagga Kamma. So, enjoy it.
There's only one way to recover from a relaxing evening like that, and that's with step 19, an open-air spa treatment.
After breakfast, head up the secluded hill for your private spa pampering. Do I even need to say more?
From then on, it's all about step 20, enjoy Kagga Kamma.
And that's really easy to do. After braving the quad biking trip to the Sky Suite, I was keen to up my skills and headed out for a fun trip after our massage. Again, booking for the full board package allows you a certain fun freedom that we'd highly recommend.
You get to pick and choose your activities and never concern yourself with the right-hand side of the menu. Next on the agenda is a fun family game of curry mini golf, which is a great way to lead you into lunch.
And lunch is just great in general.
Be sure to let your food digest before going for a swim.
And take a thin jacket with you when heading out on a sundowner cruise.
You could also go stargazing, go on a rock art tour, a nature drive, do some of your own rock painting, have a gin tasting, go hiking, 4x4ing, mountain biking, have a picnic, knock a few balls at the driving range.
And if this all seems like too much to organize, fear not. You'll have a personal guide ready to arrange all of your activities for you.
After some breakfast and perhaps a morning nature drive, it's that time again.
Time to go.
Head back down the Katbakkies Pass, 49.6 kilometers and just over an hour to
Boplaas 1743, where you can stay in their beautiful guest house, explore some of the history in their family museum, or, if you're lucky, experience the snow-capped mountains.
The turn-off to the guest house comes earlier than Google Maps suggests, so keep your eyes on the right of the road or use the link in our description.
Boplaas 1743 is a name that in itself carries a lot of weight. It tells the story of one family's legacy, the only remaining original farmyard in South Africa. A farm that is now 281 years old, with the 11th generation currently residing on the farm and picking up the baton to continue running the fruitful family farm.
Once used as a sheep farm, apples, citrus, peaches and pears are grown here now, making the Ceres Valley sweet once again. Who knows, maybe you've even tasted their fruit.
There is just so much history to the Boplaas farm and the Van der Merwe family. You can even read all about their family genealogy on their website. It's so fascinating, featuring everything from a king to knights to a baron to a humble sheep farmer turned poet and fruit connoisseur.
Step 21 is to enjoy Boplaas, starting with the museum.
We've told you about some of the farm's history, now it's time you go and see the rest of it for yourself. With 11 generations worth of belongings, there are interesting family artifacts and relics at every turn. Besides the main farmhouse, there's an old mill once used to grind flour, an old soup house, a wagon shed and a baking house, and if you're lucky, you might even encounter these friendly guys too.
The Boplaas 1743 homestead itself has actually been declared a national monument, so be sure to call ahead and book a tour of the museum, even if you're just passing by.
Not only is Boplaas the oldest family-run business in South Africa, but they are also the first on the continent to use a floating solar plant on their Malonique farm in Franschhoek. They believe that sustainability is their #1 priority, and they were even able to reduce their farm's carbon footprint by 50%. You go, Boplaas!
Heading back to your own little farmhouse, there's a lot you can do. This family-focused guest house sleeps 8 and has all the amenities to keep you occupied. Swimming in the dam, chilling in the wood-fired hot tub, or firing up a braai are great summer activities.
While cuddling up to watch a movie and playing family board games around the fire are ideal for winter.
And it gets cold in winter, so be sure to order a 50-kilogram bag or 2 of wood for 80 Rand each.
Visiting in winter spoiled us with the most breathtaking views of the mountain outside. We couldn't stop staring, even daring a few short walks outside when it wasn't snowing just to take it in.
There are also a few hikes in the area and a lot of farm exploring that we need to do, so we'll be back to test Boplaas Guest House out in the summertime. As for your trip, just speak to Kyla about any other activities you'd like to do and she'll happily explain it all.
Being a self-catering guest house and being at the end of our Cederberg journey, ordering a meat or food delivery to be ready for you upon arrival when booking is a stellar idea.
Packs are 150 Rand each.
As a perfect way to unwind, who knows how long you'd like to stay? Well, probably really long, so we'll give you another night. But there's still a lot more traveling to do, so be sure to follow along on our next Travallure guide that takes you to Cape Town.
So step 22 is to click the card right up here or follow the link in our description to be taken to our next guide, which will seamlessly continue on from your final morning in the Koa Bokkeveld.
Don't forget that you can navigate all of our travel guides using the linked chapters to make sure you don't miss a thing.
And you can find a ton more information on this route, the places to stay and the things to do on deartravallure.com
or linked below.
Before you head off though, let's wrap up our Cederberg travel guide with a quick look at the costs and a few tips and tricks we learnt along the way.
For these 8 days of traversing the Cederberg, we had 2 lunches out, averaging 300 Rand each, topped up a little petrol for 186 Rand, bought 195 Rands worth of firewood, and only had to fork out 329 Rand on activities and snacks, which would all likely cost a bit more now compared to August 2020. Factoring in our accommodation, accurate as of November 2024, at 48,900 Rand, our entire Cederberg journey would cost us 50,210, which equates to around 3,140 Rand per day per person sharing.
It's important to note that Driehoek and Boplaas are both self-catering, and you have that lovely picnic at the Middleberg Waterfall too, the costs for which are solely up to you and not included in our guideline mentioned here.
You'll also notice that we didn't include much for activities, as getting permits for all of the Cederberg attractions are a lot cheaper or even free when flashing your South African National Parks wildcard. We purchased the All Parks cluster for 1,190 Rand, which came in extremely handy and worked out a lot cheaper over our entire road trip.
Over the course of our epic South African road trip, we learned a lot of handy tips and tricks that would amp up all of your travels, including simple items to keep with you at all times, important aspects to plan ahead, and fun ideas to ensure you're ready for whatever adventure comes your way.
So, before heading off on SA roads, make sure you've read what you need to know before embarking on a South African road trip. You can find it linked below or on Travallure.com.
Plus, you can download our free packing list that we use for all of our SA expeditions.
Planning the dates of your trip is all that's left, so if you're looking for snow-capped peaks and warm campfires, then winter is your best bet. But if you're a fan of the heat, contrasted by cold dips in mountain water, summer is the obvious choice.
Either way, the Cederberg is always beautiful. You won't be disappointed.
From our end, your final morning at Boplaas is where our journey continues, so be sure to follow our next travel guide as we explore South Africa together.
And while we're in the spirit of following things, at Travallure on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date with all of our tips, tricks and travels.
And we'd also like to keep up to date with your travels, so tag us online and use the hashtag DTEnRouteSA if you find yourself conquering this very route.
We'll see you in the next one.
And, as always,
enjoy your journey!